What you're about to hear just happened to me this week. I want to get this out while I still have time. The things I've seen, I'd only seen in my nightmares, quite literally. Let me take you back to when it started. Now, for context, I work late, so coming home between the hours of midnight and 2 a.m. are a common occurrence for me. This night, I got off relatively early. I came home by 12, opened the front door, hung up my keys, and started to shift out of my work clothes to get comfortable. I live alone, so looking disreputable wasn't an issue to me. Splaying my clothes out along the floor was a common occurrence as well. I did so as I trekked down the long hallway to my bedroom, stopping quickly at the bathroom halfway down the hall to brush my teeth before continuing the rest of the way. I was usually too tired to properly bin my clothes at the end of the night, so I would take care of it in the morning. I opened the door to my bedroom, and damn, I left some plates out on my desk from when I was eating before work. Guess I don't want ants, I thought. So I grabbed the dishes and walked back down the hall, to the living room, into the kitchen, and put my dishes in the dishwasher. Why can't there just be a door from my room to the kitchen? They share a wall anyway. I could just do a little DIY work and make a nice doorway. Better not, I thought. My landlord would probably kill me. I started going back to the living room when I noticed the blinds were wide open in front of the sliding glass door to my backyard. I say backyard, but it's more like a patio on the side of my house. Sizable, but I never really used the space. Anyway, I wouldn't close the blinds. I live alone, like I mentioned, and even though my backyard was an enclosed space that no one else had access to, I didn't like the thought of having wide open blinds that someone could potentially use to see inside. I like to be indecent in peace. As I went back and entered my room, I noticed something outside the window directly across from me. I looked and... I guess it was nothing. Though it felt like I could almost see the faint image of glowing eyes watching me with a sinister stare. But I guess it was just a feeling, as I was actually looking out the window now, and there was nothing there. Still, it made me feel a bit uneasy. It wasn't terribly uncommon, as I would sometimes see things when nothing was there, figures and shadows. Though everyone sees things like that, right? I settled in for the night and drifted off into a dreamless sleep. Dreamless, if not for the nightmares, of course. You see, this is when that dream started manifesting itself. I dreamt of myself, standing under a spotlight with darkness all around me. I was alone, but I had the sense that I really wasn't. I could feel it. Something out there in the darkness, lurking, watching. Coming towards me, reaching out, grasping at me. But I couldn't see it, just the darkness that enveloped me. I woke up suddenly, my heart racing, with that feeling not wanting to leave, the feeling of being watched. My phone buzzed as I received a notification. It was the security camera from my backyard. When it detects motion, it automatically sends me a notification, along with the footage that it recorded of whatever it saw. When I first set up the camera, I would freak out and assume someone was always trying to break into my house whenever I got that notification, but I quickly realized 100% of the time it was just a squirrel or raccoon. But I checked every time anyway, just in case. Now, this time was particularly weird. I opened up the app and nothing. There was nothing there. It was a 5-second clip of an unmoving yard with nothing out of the ordinary. Weird, I thought. My heart was still racing and my mind could only go to dark places. Come on, I told myself. Just a dream. I waited a few more minutes for my heart rate to normalize, then tried falling back asleep. The next night, I got off a bit later. This time, I was home by 1 and did my usual routine. Door open, clothes off. Shambling like a zombie down the hall. I was tired all day as a result of not sleeping well the previous night. I got to my room and my phone buzzed. Another security notification. I opened it up and nothing. The same as the previous night. I looked up and, damn it again? More plates? I really needed to start cleaning up after myself so that future me could just freaking relax. I grabbed the plates and made my way to the kitchen. The dishwasher was full of clean dishes that I still needed to put away, so I decided to leave these ones in the sink. As I got to the sink, I started to place the dishes down and noticed something was a bit off about my reflection in the window. I guess at that point, I never really questioned my reflection, as it was just a natural thing I could see in my periphery in mirrors and dark windows. But this time, It was an odd discrepancy that caught my attention. As I was moving, my reflection in the window wasn't. I turned to look at myself in the dark reflective glass and I dropped the plate. That wasn't my reflection. Staring back at me from the other side of the window was an elderly woman. No, a hag. Her thin gray hair framing her decrepit, wrinkled face. Her large glowing eyes were staring back at me while she smiled a wide, toothy smile with the few teeth she appeared to have left. I felt enthralled in her stare, struck by sheer terror, unable to move. Finally, I snapped back to my senses, still terrified of the horror that was before me. I ran back into the living room, checking to make sure the door to the backyard was locked. It was, but the blinds were open again. Why were they open? I made sure they were closed before I left for work. I grabbed my phone and dialed 911, the only thing I thought to do. Before closing the blinds, I looked out into the yard and couldn't see her anymore, which just made me even more uneasy. By the time the police arrived and checked the backyard, no one was there. They also reviewed my security footage but found nothing. Whoever was there, they were long gone. But there were no signs of how anyone would have entered the backyard, as it was surrounded by a fence, and no signs of anyone being there at all. The whole situation kept me on edge throughout the night, and I wasn't able to fall asleep for hours. When I finally did, I had the same nightmare as the night before, only this time, as I felt whatever it was reaching out for me, I saw an old, wrinkled hand extend from the darkness. Just before it grabbed me, I woke up screaming. As the next day went on, I tried to convince myself that it really wasn't anything that I had seen in the window the previous night. It was just a product of my being tired from not sleeping well the night before. That's all. Coming back from work, I was exhausted. It was 2 a.m. and all I could think about was crashing into my bed. The events of the previous night were almost fully out of my head, and I really just needed the rest. As I opened my front door and walked into the house, I immediately felt a sense of dread overcome me. What if I saw her again? The decrepit face of the woman came back into my mind and sent shudders down my spine. I shook them off and started making my way through the living room into the hallway when I stopped. Something had caught my attention from the corner of my eye. The blinds of my glass door. They were open again. I felt my phone buzz in my pocket and I froze out of fear. What had opened the blinds? I slowly turned to look at them. Staring back at me with those dead, glowing eyes was the hag, smiling her broken smile. I was frozen. I couldn't move, though my heart beat furiously in my chest. "Who are you?" I managed to get out. "What do you want?" My voice was starting to find courage in the terror. She didn't reply, just watching me with those dead eyes. I ran down the hallway into the bathroom and slammed the door shut, locking it behind me. Out of all the rooms in my house, I felt the safest here, because there were no windows and it was away from the exterior walls. I sat in the corner by my shower, up against the wall, and opened up my security app. I opened it to a live view of my backyard, hoping to find the woman didn't make her way into my house. But from what I could see from the footage, she was gone, and the sliding door was still closed. I saw the notification that was from a few minutes prior when I walked in. I loaded up the footage it had captured, and like each night before, I just saw my backyard. Empty, not a soul in sight. What the hell is going on? I thought, sitting on the cold bathroom floor, still too afraid to leave the comfort of the restroom. I awoke the next morning later than usual, laying on the tile floor, my memory of the previous night coming back hazily. Again, I had dreamed of being surrounded by dark shadow, only broken by a hand extending out of it. A hand with long, sharp fingernails. Fingernails as sharp as daggers. It turned so its palm was now face up. As it closed its fingers over its palm, I felt myself being pulled towards the darkness. As it closed its finger over its palm, I felt myself being pulled towards the darkness. I felt coldness rush over me the closer I got to it, and right as I neared the edge of the light, I woke up. I checked the camera footage again, and still nothing. Am I really just going crazy? I thought to myself as I splashed cold water over my face and stretched my aching shoulders. I opened the door slowly into the hallway and peered my head out to make sure I was truly alone. It sure seemed that way. I decided I still needed to go into work and was a bit relieved that I would be getting off earlier that night. Anything that had been happening before seemed to be in correlation to the lack of sleep I was getting, so I chalked it up to that. Let me just get through this shift, get home earlier, and knock out, I drilled myself. After I got dressed and started making my way out, I made sure to close the blinds in front of the exterior door, making sure they were fully closed after I took a moment to stare at the spot I saw the hag the night before. There was nothing any different about this spot, no footprints or anything. I shook my head and made my way out the door. I got home around 9 p.m., nice and early, for me at least. I took the time to put my clothes away and got into some comfy PJs. It occurred to me that I actually had time to play a video game I wanted to get some hours into, unlike my usual nights. So I sat at my nice plush desk chair and turned on my computer. After a couple of hours, I transitioned to watching a few YouTube videos and eventually dozed off. A loud noise startled me awake. Disoriented, it took me a few seconds to realize it was just a video that had begun playing when I was knocked out at my desk. I got up, stretched out, and turned my computer off to get ready for bed. My phone let me know it was 1 a.m. So much for getting to bed early, I guess. I made my way to the restroom while browsing Twitter and brushed my teeth before eventually heading back into my room to finally go back to sleep. I was about 5 feet from my bedroom door when I heard something that froze me stone cold. It was the slow, methodical sound of the door to my backyard sliding open. My phone began to buzz from the other room. Oh, hell no, I thought to myself. Who's there? I yelled out, trying to sound big and intimidating. I quickly ran into my room and grabbed the machete I kept next to my bed, a souvenir from San Francisco's Chinatown, sharp enough to deal damage if necessary. I slowly crawled back into the hallway. I'm armed! This time I felt the confidence of holding a sharp weapon. Don't fuck with me! I'll slice you up! Maybe if I sounded crazy, they'd turn tail and get out. The shuffling of feet I heard coming from the living room down the hall told me they hadn't left yet, and they were making their way towards me. Do you want to become part of my collection? I've got a lot of, fingers. I like the way they wiggle. This was getting out of hand. The fear was bearing down on me, making it futile to seem threatening in mostly any way.
Oh, dearie. I quite like the way they wiggle too. Although, my favorite part is the way they snap right off. The most delicious little finger foods.
I started to see a figure come into view at the end of the dark hallway. I dropped my blade, the metal clanging on the floor by my feet. I stood there, paralyzed with fear, as I saw an elderly, enfeebled woman, hunched over in a black cloak, shambling towards me. Her body shook with every step, creaking the floorboards beneath her as she approached.
Now tell me, would you say your fingers are tastier, or your toes?
At this, I quickly started backwards towards my room, but tripped over the hilt of my machete, sending it skittering down the hall and landing on my back.
Why, don't make it too easy for me. I quite like the chase.
Still on the floor, I did my best to crawl backwards as she slowly advanced, now halfway down the hall. Leave me alone! She was now almost to the machete. A frail, long hand appeared out of one of the sleeves in her cloak. She reached down and waved her fingers in a cascade. I watched in horror as the machete floated up and landed in her outstretched hand, her long fingers grasping it. Oh shit, oh no. I was still backing up away from her, but the closed door behind my back stopped me. God damn it, why was the door closed now? I definitely hadn't closed it. Panicked, I reached out for the knob and thanked the heavens it turned. I swung the door open and managed to crawl back into my room as the hag continued to slowly creep her way towards me.
That won't help you,
she claimed. Even so, I slammed my door and locked it, shoving my dresser in front of it. I backed away from the door, making sure not to remove my eyes from the knob. I felt around for my phone, fumbling around the desk the best I could without looking. Crap, I left the phone in my bathroom earlier. Just my luck. I was stuck. There was nothing I could do. I didn't want to go through my window, because the only way I could feasibly get out of my backyard would be back towards the front of the house, back towards where she came from. I stood and waited, thinking of what to do. A few seconds went by, and the doorknob gave a shake. It shook and then stopped. I braced myself for her to open the door and some kind of explosion of the clothes flying out of my dresser, but nothing. I couldn't hear anything from the other side of the door, so I inched closer to listen. No shuffling, no sounds. I got closer and closer to the door, listening intently, and then I heard scratching on the door. I could hear her fingernails scraping up and down, side to side. And then I heard the sound of feet shuffling back down the hallway, away from me. I took the time to barricade my window with the bookcase on the opposite side of my wall. There was no way I was letting her in through there. I sat in my desk chair, trying to keep my eyes on both the door and the window, keeping watch. Eventually, I must have dozed off, because I was back in the middle of the spotlight, darkness all around me. And then she came into view. The hag came out of the darkness and reached her spindly fingers out towards me.
Yes, feed me your fear. Let me indulge in it. Savor it.
Her arms reached out and grabbed me, her long, sharp fingernails digging into my arms as she wrenched me towards her, her mouth opening wide to reveal dozens of jagged teeth. As she bit into my flesh, I woke up screaming. "Nope, fuck that," I exclaimed as I jumped out of my desk chair, the morning sun pouring out through the cracks behind the bookcase. I slowly opened the bedroom door and saw nothing on the outside. Relieved, I started to exit the room and noticed what was on the other side of the door. My heart dropped. "See you soon" was carved into the wood. It was time to get to work. Throughout the day, I did my best to secure every entrance into my house, boarding up the windows and glass door to the backyard. There was no way I was letting her get back in here. At this point, I was convinced. It had to be real, unless I was truly going mad. I had to let someone know this was happening. I knew the police wouldn't believe me, and the surveillance footage continued to show up empty. I sat down at my computer and started writing this out. She's coming for me, and I'm not sure that I'll be able to keep her out this time. All I can do now is wait. Wait for her to get me. Wait for her to consume me.